they'll step on they'll step on your shoes, and then they'll think about killing you. You know what I'm saying? When you ain't do anything and stuff to be put to death. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? All has fallen short of the glory of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So guess what? Why do you think it says that we get we get punished less than our iniquities deserve? You know what I'm saying? Why do you think it stuff? It says the sure mercies of King David. You know. So this is Genesis 2:22, verse 3. It says, and Abraham, so Abraham knew and stuff that it had to be a test because this angel was trying to tell him to do something against his son. And it was like, which was Yahushua, as it says in Matthew 1:1, Isaac, right? He was trying to get him to do something and stuff that was against the scriptures, you know, right? But he carried along. So this Genesis 22 and verse 3. It says, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, meaning a donkey. It says, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. It says, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which the Most High had told him. Right? And the only one who's not going to be reincarnated is Yahushua. When he returns, he's coming to pick us up. He's already in his godly estate that we waiting stuff to be transformed into. And the reason why I said that is stuff because this is Matthew 1:1. It says the book of the generations of Yahushua Hamashiach. It says the son of David, right? And who is the son of David? Solomon. And it says the son of Abraham. And who was that? Isaac. You know. So I just had to bring that out there. Going back to the Genesis 22:4. It says, then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes. It says, and saw the place afar off. It says, and Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. Right? So the thing is that the only one that's hearing this is Abraham. And remember, Abraham was considered the Heavenly Father's friend, you know, right? Because he moved in faith. You know what I'm saying? You know, but faith without works is dead. You know what I'm saying? Right? So this is Genesis 22 and verse 5. It says, and Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here with it. Okay, I read that. Abide ye here with the ass. It says, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. It says, and Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife. It says, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I, my son. And he said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, the Most High will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. Verse 7, it says, and Isaac spake unto Abraham his father. No, I read that. All right, verse 8, it says, and Abraham said, my son, Yahweh Shemashah will provide himself a lamb. Well, it's like the Elohim will provide himself a lamb. Or, you know, it says, I got to check on that one. It says, it says a lamb, it says for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which the Most High, which Elohim had told him of. It says, and Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. So this was the same thing when it come down to the Job. You know what I'm saying? Job, it was a bet that was being made, even though it doesn't explain the stuff in this story, right? But it was a bet that was being made and stuff when it came down to Job. And then when it came down to Job, when it came down to Job, it was a bet proving and stuff that he wasn't gonna go off. You know what I'm saying? You know, because remember, Satan too and stuff is a messenger, and we're gonna get into that. You know, his job is to send forth messages against the scriptures, you know, or even use scriptures to get you outside of correct godly character. You know what I'm saying? Right? Where you bring an offense onto yourself, you know? So this Genesis 22, and remember, the whole thing within this grace period and stuff is to take you out. You know what I'm saying? You know, and what's taking you out? Where you don't no longer and stuff want to apply the scriptures no more to yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you start thinking man's wisdom is the way to go, you know? So this Genesis 22 and verse 10, it says, and Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here am I. Do not attempt to do this shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, right? You know, it says verse 12. It says, and he said, lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest the Most High. It says, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, from me. So what does that sound like? It sounds like it was a test, just like how Job was being tested, you know? And once again, don't even do that. Because remember, Satan had to come on those Sabians and whatnot and stuff just so they can steal all of Job's stuff, right? It says, shows and stuff that when something wrong is come to mind and stuff to do, that is Satan. You know, for the ones and stuff who are not familiar with how he works. Because guess what? Just because, I'll say it like this, speaking as a man, you're newly converted and you need to hurry up and stuff and excel and stuff, you know, right? You ain't finna get no level 1. He gonna give you stuff what you can handle. But you're not finna get no level 1 demon. You might get level 3 raw off the rip, you know? Like in solo leveling and whatnot and stuff, Sun Jin, all his even if it was level 1 and whatnot and stuff, it wasn't destroying a slime and then he was level 2 and whatnot. No, he had to work. He had to work. He had the double dungeon, which was not supposed to be expected. He was ranky, you know what I'm saying? He had a second awakening and whatnot, and all his trials and stuff was harder than the ones and stuff previously, you know? Even in the hell faction and whatnot and stuff, right? You know? So this is it says verse 13, it says, and Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. You know, right? So it was a test. You know what I'm saying, right? Now I want to go to this. This is Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. Now here it is and stuff. Abraham was the only one and stuff who heard this angel and stuff speaking to him. You know, this is Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. It says, then was Yahushua led of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, right? And it says, and when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward a hunger. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread. Now, when it come down to angels, they can most definitely and stuff, they always appear as men. They never appear as women, you know? And guess what? It's going to be men of color. And if it ain't men of color and stuff, it's more unlikely and stuff going to be any other men and stuff of how the tribes and stuff look. You know what I'm saying? Also meaning and stuff that guess what? An angel can come looking like a confusion of face. You know? Right? Because it's still a test. And matter of fact, I'm glad I said that. I'm going to come back to this Matthews. But this is Hebrews. Verse 1. It says, let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. You know what I'm saying? You know, right? Meaning, I guess what? You're not dealing with a real person and stuff that's right there and stuff. You're dealing with a celestial being and stuff who's able to transform his outer appearance. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to always come as men. that's Aaron. No, that ain't Aaron. Right. So this is Matthew chapter 4, verse 3. It says, and when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread. Now, you see how it was and stuff when it came out of Abraham. Abraham was being tempted and stuff to kill his son. You know what I'm saying, right? But guess what? What did his son do and stuff? And I got it. It doesn't speak on it, but I'm pretty sure and stuff that what was going on in Abraham's head. You know what I'm saying? This got to be a test. Because why would this spirit tell me to do these various things, and my son did not do anything wrong? You know. Right, verse 3, it says, and when so this is done to Yahweh Shai, you know, right? And it doesn't explain stuff if Satan came through and stuff as a person and stuff asking these questions. This could have been done and stuff all in his head, you know, because remember, Abraham and stuff was with 3 other people, his son and 2 other servants. You know what I'm saying, right? But the only one who heard it and stuff was Abraham. You know, but look how this celestial being and stuff was trying to look what the celestial being and stuff was trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get Abraham to do, go off. Right. So this is Matthew 4 and verse 4. It says, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High Yahweh. Verse 5, it says, then the devil taketh him up into a holy city and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple. You know what I'm saying, you know, right? And it doesn't explain and stuff if this was like a Habakkuk situation where the angel came and stuff and picked him up and brought him stuff to the city. You know what I'm saying, you know, and been like, look, you know, woo the woo, right? Or the fact that stuff, it was like pictures and stuff in his mind. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, even the angels and stuff deal with frequencies. You know what I'm saying, you know, right? But it's other energies that could not be mimicked and stuff, because you ain't gonna be able to destroy no angel. You know, right? But anyways, this is Matthew chapter 4, verse 6. It says, and saith unto him, I'll read 5 again. It says, then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of the Most High, Yahweh, cast thyself down. It said, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee. So put yourself in a messed up situation, because the angels going to come through and help you, right? It says, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest meaning that night at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone, right? Verse 7, Yahweh Shai said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power, right? So this verse 8, it says, again, the devil taketh him up into a exceedingly high mountain. It says, and sheweth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. It says, and saith unto him, right? So I mean, you already know and stuff that he ain't bring him out of space. You know what I'm saying? You know, I understand that Yahweh Shai stuff had what's it called? Omnikinesis. You know what I'm saying? Right? I know he had omnikinesis and stuff, right? But the thing is that he wasn't breathing in the outer space and whatnot and stuff, you know. So that's where, speaking as a man, it looks like that all these things and stuff was being presented and stuff within his mind, and that's usually and stuff where your temptations be. You know, you see it and stuff in Empress New Groove. You got an angel on one shoulder looking like your ass. You know what I'm saying? And then the devil and stuff on the other shoulder and stuff looking like your ass too. You know, you right in the middle. You got a hard decision, or you indecisive. They come through and stuff trying to guide you and stuff the right way or the wrong way, right? So this is Matthew chapter 4. So I'm perceiving and stuff through the spirit that's how it happened and stuff when it came down to Yahweh Shai, and also Abraham, and also when it came down to Job. Even though Job's situation, Satan was not only messing with the elements, Satan was also messing with his close ones, and he was also, he was messing with his close ones, and then also Job was complaining because he was a righteous man that excused evil. It's like, why I'm going through this? 1 Peter 4:12, right? Let me grab that too. And I'm gonna stay here. Uh, and I'm gonna get it in this one. A little too early and stuff for Brandorf, right? But this is First Peter's 1. No. What I was thinking about. Oh no, First Peter's 4:12, and it says, "Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you." And when it came down to Job, the Lord told Job, "Hey, gird up thy loins and stuff like a man." You know what I'm saying? You know, right? And the thing is that Job, like, why I'm going through this and whatnot and stuff. But here it is, not only and stuff that Satan stuff messed with things and stuff that was external from Job, he also messed with Job and stuff internally. You know what I'm saying? The Lord told Satan and stuff that, guess what? I mean, it's like Satan wasn't just messing with Job internally and stuff. No, externally, he was also messing with him internally and stuff when it came down to his flesh. You know what I'm saying? And then also, you know, right? Well, there you go. I just answered the question, right? Or explain my point, what I'm talking about. So it's Matthew 4:7. It said, Yahushua said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceedingly high mountain, and sheweth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. Right? Probably told him and stuff. It's like, hey, walk up here and whatnot and stuff, so you can see all of this. Right? So verse 9, speaking as a man though, because it doesn't say exactly. And it says, verse 9, it says, and saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Verse 10, it says, then saith Yahushua unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy power, and him only shalt thou serve. It says, verse 11, it says, then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. And what was the minister? Giving them cause of wisdom and stuff to be him in every thought. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, he was a hungered for 40 days and 40 nights, so he was weak in the flesh, and Satan came when he was weak, right? And even when it come down to temptation, Satan can come and stuff when you're weak. This Matthew 26 and 41. And it says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And with the flesh being weak, it's always some sort of test. You know what I'm saying? Right? And guess what? You got to continue to be, you want to pass all the time. You want to pass all the time. Even despite of what other people think. Because once again, Romans 14, who are you to judge another man's servant? You know what I'm saying? There's a scripture in Deuteronomy where it talks about somebody always trying to, I think it's the year of release. And here it is and stuff. You got an individual who constantly, I'm going to pay you back, I'm going to pay you back, I'm going to pay you back. But when the year of release come and whatnot and stuff, if I'm correct on it, I think it's Deuteronomy 15. When the year of release come and whatnot, guess what? If they didn't pay and stuff, they tab and whatnot, you got to forgive them for all of that. And you got people and stuff, you got individuals who know how to work within the scriptures where they not doing nothing wrong, even though it might be irritating. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, according to the scriptures, they're still not doing nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Right? That's why the scripture says, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, because as soon as you become harmful and whatnot, that's when Satan stuff can creep in. Right? And that's also showing the stuff that, guess what, you could be your own enemy. You know what I'm saying? You don't need all that pointing the finger and whatnot and stuff. And even when the brothers be sitting up here saying, a lot of that and stuff really don't be Satan. A lot of that and stuff be you. And it's like, nah, it's always Satan. Because Satan and stuff is the tempter. That temptation doesn't come on your own and stuff unless Satan is doing it. And then, I know they probably going to be like, yeah, now for sure and stuff. I ain't trying to give no correction and stuff. I'm just saying that's what it is. That's what Ephesians the 6th chapter said. That's what Ephesians the 6th chapter said. You know what I'm saying? That we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. And when people are weak, you have to be the bigger man or bigger woman. You know, you have to be those and stuff, just in case and stuff that these people and stuff are in that childish mindset. You know what I'm saying? You know, you know, right? So I just want to, prove the point that if you hear your voice and it's an intrusive thought, you know, meaning intruding, meaning you're not thinking about it, your mind is somewhere else, and something else and stuff comes to mind, right? You're intrusive. Come on, man. Characterized by intruding where one is not welcome or invited, projecting inward. So like say if you thinking about cars and whatnot and stuff, and then out of nowhere and stuff you start thinking about anything outside and stuff, or whatever you paying attention to and whatnot and stuff, that's an intrusive thought. you know you know like I'm gonna have to take this from Fenarios. You know what I'm saying, right? Ooh, Fenarios. Wow, that's crazy, right? So pretty much and stuff, it's an old vid, right? And him and this woman and stuff, they what, TK and whatnot and stuff, and Lonnie, you know what I'm saying, right? Judah, for sure. But pretty much and stuff, what happened is that he had did a skit, right? He had did a skit. Okay. So pretty much and stuff in the skit, the female TK and stuff, she wake up and stuff out of sleep, and this old, so this is real old, right? She wake up out of sleep and stuff, and it's like, oh, he look it's like, oh, look at my baby, he looks so woo to woo and whatnot, and then out of nowhere and stuff, it was like, drown this motherfucker. He probably thinking about cheating, you know, he probably thinking about another bitch, woo to woo and whatnot and stuff. That's an intrusive thought, because the first thing that she was doing and stuff when it came to mind initially was that it's like, oh, look at my baby, he looks so sweet and whatnot. And then the intrusive thought came in, drown this motherfucker, out of nowhere. That's an intrusive thought. And guess what? You know whose voice was being used? Hers. So guess what? Satan can use your voice and pop something in your mind and stuff that you ain't thinking about, and trick you and make you think that you said something when whole time you got to know your reality. What was you speaking on before something else and stuff just came to mind and whatnot and stuff with your voice? And here it is and stuff. We all got a conscience. And with us having a conscience, you can speak to yourself. And they show that in the animes, and they show that in TV series. You know what I'm saying? When they think that when they catching on to somebody's bullshit, they don't speak, but the Karen stuff faces them, and here it is and stuff, they saying something in their mind, right? What if Satan has the power to do that too? To mimic your voice, just like how they got these deep fakes, or how the female said and stuff that she almost got landed in prison and stuff because of AI, making things and stuff so resilient, such a resemblance and stuff to her character, until it was proven and stuff that it was AI and stuff and not her actually. When it come down to it, look what happened. When it came down to it, yeah, I already know they're gonna judge on the outward appearance, but I can't get mad. But when it come down to it and stuff, Satan can do that too. Satan can put an image in your head. Satan stuff can bring your voice into saying something that you know and stuff that you was not talking about. You know? That's Satan's job is to bring confusion. You know what I'm saying? And to get you to believe something that you know that you didn't do or say or think. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? That's crafty too. But that's his job. And how you take the crafty and the craftiness, look what Yahweh Shah did. And Satan was bringing forth scriptures. Satan was bringing forth scriptures just to further empower Yahweh Shah and stuff to do his will. You know? Right? So, to further and stuff to do his will. You know? So I hope this video is, I hope it's a good exhortation for those and stuff who do listen to my videos. I hope this video was edifying. I'd like to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Harakakadash. Double honors to apostles, a great millstone, and salutations to the elect, which we hope to be. Shalom, wa Baba Kwam Yasharala. And I am passing.